Good morning. Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Moment of Hope with Upward Transitions. I'm Carla Stinnett, and today we're very excited to have our special guest, Cale Powers. He is the Housing Program Coordinator with the Veterans Affairs Program, which is our a federal program. So we'd like to welcome Cale to our broadcast today. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
We're so happy here that you could join us and that you're here to tell us more about the homeless program at the Veterans Affairs Department.
Well, I'm excited to be here and talk about it. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so just to get things rolling, we were wondering about the mission, or how do you process your mission and your work at the Veterans Affairs? How's that work in the history?
Yeah, so the mission is kind of stayed the same throughout time, but generally it's to help homeless veterans and their families off the street so that, incidents of homelessness are rare and non-recurring and brief if they do happen. For the VA, homeless assistance developed in the late 80s. I think it was 1987. They developed what we call NEPIC. Everything in the VA is an acronym, but NEPIC is the Northeast Program Evaluation Center, and they were looking at structured ways to address societal issues like homelessness. And that kind of morphed and evolved. There were some studies done in the 90s about what leads veterans towards homelessness. And then the push really developed in the late 2000s-ish, like 2008, 2009, with some initiatives. And that's really where we hit the ground running here in Oklahoma City. Probably around between 2009 and 2012 is where everything kind of synthesized and came together for us.
So prior to that, did you actually have a program that was, okay, so it was specific to the homeless?
Yeah, we had a very small program at the time, just kind of handling pockets of homeless veterans that we were able to, mostly in an outreach, engaging in outreach. And from that, we developed, various programs. We have, 8, 9, 10 programs, depending on how you kind of parse them out now. But back in 2009, it was really just about 2.
Yeah. And tell me just a little bit about you personally, how you got into the work that you do.
I got really lucky, if I'm being honest with you. Back in 2008, I was in graduate school, and I got placed at the Homeless Alliance for my graduate practicum. We started coordinated case management at the old Westtown buildings. They're off of 3rd in Virginia. And I met some really fantastic people. That kind of lent itself to a position with North Care, doing community homeless work. And just kind of over time, there was an opportunity in 2015 with the VA to do this. And I'll tell you, it's so incredible working somewhere that has such great resources and supports. So I've been here since about 2015 in the homeless program, worked for a while in Lawton with homeless veterans there. And since about 2018, it focused solely here in Oklahoma City.
So how many clients do you serve in your homeless program here each year?
Every year, we're right at about 750. That fluctuates a little bit. As a general rule, we've got just a shade under 500 Section 8 vouchers allocated to us that we can hand out. We've got a 16-bed transitional living facility, 24 other transitional beds, and then 14 beds in emergency shelter. We do outreach and a bunch of other programs like that too. So all in all, about 750 a year.
Now, is that in the state of Oklahoma total, or is that a certain county? Or
it's primarily in Oklahoma County.
Yeah.
We do have some of our Section 8 vouchers are in Cleveland County and Comanche County, Norman and Lawton, but for the most part, that's Oklahoma County.
Okay, I see. So when COVID-19 hit, which, the pandemic has affected all of us in the way that we are able to serve our clients, how did that impact your programs and your services and the process that you had to implement?
It was crazy. It was weird right off the bat. And I was nervous how it was all going to pan out. We had a lot of staff meetings, mostly virtually, talking to our staff about what they felt. And our staff here felt really passionate about maintaining good services to our veterans, doing so safely, virtually if possible. But we didn't really stop a lot. We maintained distance from people. We do home visits, mostly outside. If people were sick, we'd, of course, take our precautions, do those sort of things. The hospital supported us incredibly well. We had PPE. We had all the things we needed. Primarily what we saw was a slowdown in our housing process during COVID. So we were housing a lot less people just based on there being a lot less units available. So
Mhm.
we really had to work more on the case management side of getting people ready to house. We kept trudging on through. Our numbers dipped a little bit, but our productivity and those things maintained the same. And we have some really incredible workers.
That's great. And, you spoke of the other agencies that you have worked with. And one of the things that we are very proud of here in Oklahoma, Central Oklahoma, is the collaboration that we do have amongst our nonprofit agencies and other programs that are serving the populations that we have that we share with our clients. So besides Upward Transitions, what are some of the other community agencies that you work with in your process of serving veterans there at the VA?
Well, let me say this about upward transitions. There's a lot of what we do that we wouldn't be able to do without upward transitions. Whether it's birth certificates or helping people with little odds and ends here and there, upward transitions is a vital role in that. We're really fortunate. Like I say, the first 3 years I worked in homelessness for the VA, I was in Lawton. And if I'm kind of comparing the two situations, I recognize how fortunate we are in Oklahoma City to have places like the Homeless Alliance. Dan and his staff at the Homeless Alliance are invaluable. They've changed how homeless services are provided and what homelessness looks like in Oklahoma City in a positive way. We also work really closely with various agencies for financial assistance, like Shepherds of Love and Charity in Edmond, Guild of St. George, Salvation Army shelter, some of the other shelters around here in the city. We really kind of have contacts here and there with everybody, and we're so fortunate. I remember when I was in Lawton wishing we had such a wide network of agencies. One
Mhm.
real big source down there is Catholic Charities, which we have up here too, and
Mhm.
they're fantastic people we work with as well.
Yes, and we share that same collaboration with some of those agencies as well. Um, I was just wondering, when you see your clients and serve them, what is the most contributing factor to the homelessness condition of your clients that you can observe?
What's interesting? I think different people have different ideas in their heads of what a homeless veteran is. There was a
Mhm.
study in 1991, I think, done by the VA that showed there really wasn't much of a correlation between combat experience and homelessness. It was deeper than just that. One thing that I see is much like I'm sure a lot of the providers at Upper Transitions do is a lot of mental health and substance use. Um, Difficulty with some interpersonal relationships with their families, those type of things.
Mhm.
Those are really the three biggest factors that I see prevailing through our homeless population: mental health and substance use disorder, which we're working on some pretty unique ways to tackle that, and then familial relationships. So I know you said one, but those are probably three. They all kind of
Yeah.
tied up there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is a complex, layered issue, and there's several places that you have to actually reach out to that person and get the services that they need. So that's why one agency can't provide everything they need.
I agree. And one thing that I'll say to that is, it occurred to me back in 2008 when I was at Homeless Alliance, and even more so now, that whether you're a veteran or you're just, a civilian, none of us are too many steps away, from ending up in a bad spot. We're a few missed paychecks or a few bad things away, at most usually from ending up there. So it's not like our homeless veterans or homeless people in general are a completely different species. They just are experiencing some other things, and it's so great to get to help them.
So tell me a little bit about maybe the program that is the most active, or where you're actually um, invested the most as far as serving the clients. What program?
Our biggest program is HUD-VASH. That's the HUD VA Supportive Housing Program. We've got right now 492 Section 8 vouchers. I think we're getting a few more at the end of this year. And that's a really neat program. For me, I'm not a veteran. I'm just real lucky to get to work here. So if I needed a Section 8 voucher and I went to the Housing Authority, you guys know this, it could take months, it could take years for me to get a voucher. Veterans, we have them on hand and we can pass them out. We can get them to them in a week. They can have a voucher in hand. The
Mhm.
really great thing about that is utilizing a housing first philosophy. We can get them that voucher, we can get them in a place when there are places available, and then
Mhm.
we could start working on the mental health stuff, the substance use disorder things. For people who maybe aren't ready or aren't looking at permanent housing as their first step. We've got, a 16-bed transitional living facility off of 30th and Classen in that area, and some other beds of kind of mixed, acuity needs. So HUD-VASH is the biggest, but we see probably a very wide range kind of across the spectrum of people in all stances of readiness.
Okay. So do you have an example that you'd like to share as far as a client or how we collaborated together? Or
Oh man, upward transitions is just, it's unreal. We've had this guy. There's a gentleman, and I'll leave names out of it, for
yeah.
anonymity's sake. But we had a guy who was with his significant other, and he was a veteran. She was not, living in a tent just southeast of the VA hospital. We knew him very, very well. We'd bring him food. We'd bring him bus passes. We offered him shelter placement, but his wife wouldn't be able to enter the veteran shelter. She'd have to go to community shelter. So he wasn't willing to separate. The thing that was holding him back was a birth certificate, and he just had no idea where to go with it. And I think it was out of Florida. I could be wrong. But through the incredible work of Upward Transitions Connections and patience of the Upward Transitions workers, we were able to get that birth certificate. And finally, once we got that, we were able to get a voucher, and he's housed right now. He and his wife are housed. We still bring him food. We check on him all the time, but we were able to get him from a tent to a place. And it was really that one key. And I know Upward Transitions does more than that. I don't mean to boil it down to that, but that was one instance where we were so fortunate to have that connection.
Well, when you're dealing with the homeless population, that first barrier is identification. Like you got to have ID to be able to get housing, employment, and other social services. So we try to address, that first barrier. And that is, we refer back and forth. I know a lot of times because of some of the criteria that is on our funding, there may be certain instances or situations where we're limited in that we can't fund that particular case. So we refer out then to another agency that helps us. So it's a reciprocal type environment here with our nonprofit community here in Oklahoma City. Very, very fortunate for that. So if there are veterans out there today or someone who may know someone who is a homeless veteran, how do they get in contact with you to be able to look into services?
The best way is we have a homeless walk-in office at our hospital. I know that's not super accessible to everybody, but our hospital off of Northeast 13th, we've got a homeless walk-in office Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 on the first floor. Anybody can come in, just like it sounds, no appointment necessary. We can check eligibility, what you're eligible for. We can do screening for any of our programs. And we can get you set up. If that's not an option, calling the hospital, 405-456-1000, and just asking for homeless services. They'll get you through the pipelines there. We've got some really incredible staff that can answer a call and handle a lot. We can do a lot over the phone. Yeah. So either one of those two those are really good places to start.
That's great. On occasion, we do have the ability to meet up with clients that are homeless veterans. And I think I saw or heard a percentage of around 10% of the homeless population approximately or of the veteran community. So.
Yeah, in Oklahoma, it tends to be, sometimes closer to 11%. I think nationally, the average is about 10%. We were really lucky in that we got to do our point in time count at the beginning of March. The city of Oklahoma City and the continuum of care, where they were able to organize it despite COVID and the weather and all the things. We finally did it, and it takes a little while for HUD to calculate all the data from that. So we'll get the numbers back on how many veterans we counted probably in a few months, but I believe our last count, there was roughly about 1,500 homeless people counted on point in time, and I think right under 160 were veterans.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about point in time is that self-identification as veterans. Do you hold yourself out to be a veteran? Sometimes there's some nuances of eligibility which kind of boggle my mind, but from that identification as a veteran, that opens you up to a bunch of different avenues. So it's really a great place to identify. And once we get the numbers back this year, it feels like everybody seems to believe homelessness has increased a bit. I think it probably has. So we're looking forward to getting these numbers back and improving and increasing our services.
Yes. Well, we are so grateful for the work that you do and the fact that the experience that you have in working with the population that we all share. And just wanted to thank you, Cale. Our time is up today. We try to keep it to about 10 to 15 minutes. But we thank you so much for being our guest today on A Moment of Hope. And that is part of our mission is inspiring hope with our neighbors who are experiencing housing instability in our community. So
thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see everyone again next week. And if you have any questions, contact the VA. And if you have a veteran in your life that needs help, they can help you out. So thank you again. We'll see everyone next week. Thank you.